What's going on, everybody? Tuned in to another edition of Cutting the Red Tape. Today, I got a special guest with me today who's going to go over a program and share her backstory with us. Again, please, guys, if you can, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers so we can have a permanent funding source to be able to support veterans and service members out there. You all know what I do. I don't mess around when it comes to helping veterans and service members. That's what I'm all about. So without further ado, I will let my guest go ahead and introduce herself. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Marcus. Thanks for having me. First off, my name is Theresa Simmons, and I am with the Army Reserve P30 program, which is the private public partnership office.
Perfect, perfect. All right. So Teresa, let's just kind of start from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, kind of where you grew up and what family life was like?
Sure. So I'm a military kid. My folks were in the Air Force. So I grew up in that sort of nomadic lifestyle. In our family, for sure, it was everybody serves in some way, some capacity. So I actually was in the reserve through college. It was how I funded my college education. And then it was just one of those things, right? We do that. Um, so that's kind of what I did. And I married my spouse, who is active component. He is a soldier. We've been married for coming up on 23 years.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So, how did you? So how did you kind of start getting into supporting service members, veterans? How did that all start coming about?
Sure. So for me, I found myself my own professional career as a military spouse, right? Moving around. And I found myself doing that constant rebrand, pivot, cobble together a career any way you can, right?
All right.
And I was doing that, and I'd kind of like started to slowly find my way into human resources. My husband and I went to Korea, which was it was difficult to find a job there, but I did. I was working at the education center, and in that arena, I would be talking to soldiers, and they would say something like, "I'm just a insert MOS. I'm just a 11 Bravo," and they were having a hard time seeing how all the great stuff they bring to the workforce, right? They weren't connecting the dots or seeing the value of their experience. And that really troubled me because I was like, I kind of get it, right? Because as a military spouse, sometimes we feel that way too. Like how do we find the value? How do we find how we fit into the workforce? And that honestly was the starting point for me. I said at that point, I want to work with service members. I want to help them in their career fields post transition, or in the case of the reserve, while they're still serving. And that's kind of how it worked. I started working on my higher level degree in human resources. I got my certification in SHRM, or through SHRM, and started kind of shifting in that direction. I worked for the Salvation Army for a long time, and then finally, an opportunity at Army TAP opened up. So helping soldiers in that transitionary phase, right? So I did that for a little bit, and now I work for P30 in the same vein, helping soldiers find their jobs. So that's kind of how it all played out. And it's funny, it started with that one soldier who said, "I'm just a 11 Bravo." And I was like,
All right.
you are so much more. You are that. And you are so much more too.
All right. So I guess, in your time there, as far as, being in Korea, obviously that was an event that's triggered you and said, hey, we have to be able to do more for, our, soldiers and reservists, because like you said, they are much more. And I feel like sometimes that maybe gets lost in translation on the reservist side because, maybe you're not full active duty at the time and you're just like, well, I'm just kind of here, I'm kind of there. And, you know, uh, when you are, in fact, much more than that. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the P30 program and kind of what that's about and how that's helping service members?
Sure. So it is employment assistance. That's kind of like the nitty gritty detail of it. It's employment assistance. We are nationwide. So regardless of where you are, I just happen to cover Arizona and New Mexico, but regardless of where you are or where you're trying to work, right? Because we know they may be relocating elsewhere. We have somebody like myself. I'm an Army Reserve employment specialist, but we have someone in place there, and their sole job is to work with that Army Reserve soldier to ensure that they are gainfully employed in a high quality civilian career, right? We're not talking about that job, which is fine. We've all had a job before, right? But the career is what we really want. Like, how do we get into the career, or what are the steps to get into the career? If that's upskilling, education, certification, something like that. But we're in place to kind of support them, and land them into that career. So we work with the soldier, of course. That's our number one priority.
Right, right.
But yeah, but we also support their dependents. I mentioned I'm a military spouse. Like, if I am struggling to find a job, you can bet that influences my husband, right?
Right.
It's a static thing that's going on in the back of your mind when your spouse can't find a job, or all the jobs that they're finding are, not really hitting the mark for them. So soldier, dependents, and then we also work with veterans when possible. And of course, that's kind of depending on our time and what our client load looks like. But for sure, we want to make sure they served. We want to support them. We want to ensure that they're happy and employed.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so that's our audience, or our clientele. Our geographic locations, like I said, we're nationwide. We are also in Europe, so we have somebody there too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of big picture what we're doing. We also build partnerships with companies and organizations, and this is where our P30 comes from, right? We build these partnerships with companies and organizations who have essentially kind of raised their hand and said, yeah, we want these people in our workforce. We see that they're great. We want them. And we understand too that these people are still continuing to serve. So there's an obligation there that they have to meet, on the soldier side. So we try to build a pipeline of talent between our awesome workforce and these awesome opportunities. And that's kind of what it's all about, to get the people into the awesome careers,
Right.
or get them on the path towards that.
Awesome. So how do you come across these companies? Do you go out and visit? How do you reach out to these companies?
So some of it is just word of mouth. I think at this point, sometimes that's exactly what's happening. They're starting to understand that this program is out there. Interestingly, I met with Bear Paint Company,
Yep.
yeah. Uh, so I met with them, and it was kind of funny because they reached out to, they kind of like got directed to me, but I said to them, how did you find me? How did you find P30? And they said, we were at Chipotle having lunch, and there was a soldier there. And we said, they tapped him on the shoulder and they said, we want people like you working with us.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Okay.
that is awesome. Right. I was like, that makes me so happy. Like, and I gave them mad props for it too. I was like, that's exactly the kind of partnership we want. If you can see how valuable these folks are, then they're going to be happy. Everybody
Right.
wants to go to work and feel valued and important. So that's kind of how we do it. Absolutely. Sometimes we're partnered with this company and they're doing a job fair with this company. And then it's like, hey,
Right.
and they come on. So it comes from a lot of different ways. If a company is interested in partnering, they can go through our website. It's really, there's no cost. It's not like that. We really just want to make sure we're getting great opportunities for our folks.
Right. I know, back when I was getting out in the Marine Corps, 2008, obviously the crash was happening back then. I can remember gas being freaking $7 a gallon, and things were just out of control, out of shape. And my tip and taps class was a video, and it talked about how you get scholarships. And then we worked on some resume writing. And then they were like, all right, have a good one. You guys should be good out there. And I'm like, okay, well, what is this? Okay. So
Wow.
yeah,
So did you
that
have any other support after you transitioned? Did you find other resources that were out there and available to you?
no, unfortunately, I didn't. I did what probably every veteran does is we're told to go to our local VA. I ended up going to the VA, had a terrible experience. Handed out a bunch of pamphlets, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm on my own. So I ended up turning the corner and ended up actually finding a really good civilian job that actually helped me getting through before, I started really getting into my own reaching out and assisting veterans. So yeah, it was a rough time. So I can see where veterans kind of just threw up their hands and said, screw it. you know,
Yeah. That was such a challenging time in the workforce and in the economy. Similarly, because a lot of active component, right? They transition and then
mhm,
we capture them in that moment and they come to the reserve. What I've noticed is for a lot of people that transitioned during the pandemic experienced something similar to that. They,
yeah,
not quite the same level of transition support that they would have gotten probably pre-pandemic or now, we're kind of coming out of it. We're seeing more activity at the TAP centers and things like that. So it's hard to hear that kind of stuff that they had that experience. So I will support anybody I can.
right.
Absolutely. We want to make sure they're all taken care of and landing those great careers that they so deserve.
Okay. So take it back to the soldier side. How are you, reaching out to soldiers? How can they find you? Is there something that you're doing, while on base?
Yeah, so I'm on Fort Huachuca. It is if you've ever been down this way, have you ever been here, Marcus?
I have not, no, driven by it, but never been on the actual base.
Yeah, it's the edge of the frontier. So very
Right.
quiet little post. But here I'm embedded. You can see this clearly looks like a government facility, right?
Right.
I'm at a reserve center here. So I have FaceTime here, and any soldier that comes through here, I'm available to them. We really try to connect with local leadership. So those commanders, their first sergeants, all that kind of stuff. We're out there talking to them. We brief whenever we can. Like if a Army Reserve unit invites us, we will be there one way or the other. If it's not in person, then it's virtually. But really trying to get the word out. Kind of awareness is key. And I always think too, it's super important that, like, I know not everybody in the audience needs P30 support. Like there's probably some people in there that are perfectly good to go, right?
Mhm.
But I always say that you may not need me, but you may have a buddy that does. And so like even that kind of stuff, just increasing awareness is critical right now. So that one person buddy check, right? Like
Right.
take care of your buddies, tell them about this program. So that's a big way that we offer support. And career counselors, they do a lot with us. If they're working with a soldier and that soldier is kind of disclosing something, they'll refer them back to us and we'll step in and do whatever we can. And then we have a website, so they can certainly request support there. It is, and this is really bad. I always just Google it.
Right.
But Army Reserve P30. You
Right.
can find it
Right.
there. Maybe Marcus can do some magic
Right.
on this post.
I will attach it in the comments, guys. Trust me, it will be there.
Thank you. But it's pretty straightforward. They can request individual support or job seeker assistance, I think is how it's phrased. And then they'll, depending on where they put their geographic location, they'll get routed to us and then we'll run the ball from there. We'll reach out to them. We'll start the conversation. Hey, what do you need? And we understand, like, somebody may just need, can you look at my resume? Yeah, absolutely. And some people may need, I don't know how to find a job. Okay, let's talk about that. So it's very individualized. Um, it's probably like what you do. Like every person you interact with is different and needs something different, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, you know, in my world, as far I help a lot of different veterans, service members, especially from the bases as well. And although we can help with emergency assistance for rent or food or lodging or transportation, things like that, one of the things is always careers, jobs. Like, yes, we can help you, but do you have something to sustain yourself, right?
Mm.
So I'm always looking for different resources, different things to be able to get people hired and employed, and just different things that I can give them for them to do. So that's why I'm really glad that you reached out to me, because when I found out this was another avenue that I could help our soldiers and veterans get employed, I was ecstatic, because again, you have to be able to feed yourself, you have to be able to pay rent, and if you can't do that, it doesn't matter, somebody's giving you money, it's going to run out eventually, and now you're going to be able to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And from our side, like that same thing, right? Money may be a temporary situation, a temporary solution, right?
Right.
Well, we think about it as, well, if they can't show up to battle assembly, we're not going to retain that soldier. And we
Right.
need to be able to retain the soldier. So that it's like this long-term solution, right? And it all kind of circles back to the career, the happy career. Then they're financially comfortable, right? And they can continue to serve our country in the reserve. And that's what we want. We want that fighting force that's strong and capable. So it kind of all goes together. Um,
Right.
and I'm glad that there are awesome resources like yours out there that are available to them. So
Right. Well, I mean, what I found with our organization is um, reservists kind of fall into their own category, if you will, because they're not technically veterans, and maybe they don't apply for certain stuff because they're not technically active duty. So there's kind of like a void there that I'm really glad we've been able to fill and kind of help out, because, like you said, this is a part of our nation's fighting force. And if we can't get them assistance where they're down, then, what the heck are we doing? Right.
yeah, that whole thing about, I mean, because I was a reserve soldier, so I feel like I can speak to it, right? I
Right.
did always feel like I was a bit of an outlier.
Right.
I wasn't active. I do have veteran status because I happen to have deployed, but not everybody has that.
Right.
And absolutely, it changes public perception. It
Mhm.
changes benefits, right?
Right.
And that really could marginalize people. So I'm really proud of P30 in that it is this unique program and it's focused on them. They're our primary client, the Army Reserve soldiers. So that's the beauty of it right there, is kind of something that's out there to help them feel welcomed in, supported, all that good stuff.
Fantastic. So, as far as the future for you, is this something you see yourself continue doing? Do you continue to see yourself like helping the program grow? What's the future like for you?
Man, I love this program, and I don't know if you can tell, I'm super passionate about it. I
Yeah.
really believe in it. I think it's so important. And I think anything that we can do to build this sense of community for the Army Reserve is critical. It is critical. Um, Unfortunately, I'm a military spouse,
Right.
uh, and this is a
Oh,
very small program.
yes.
So I know I'll be PCSing, but I also know that I will do my best to get somebody who is as passionate into the seat so that they can run the ball the next inning, um, and continue to serve. And my plan is, I mean, I love this work. So one way or another, I'll be in this space to some degree. If that's even just, I'm going to volunteer. I'm available if anybody needs me or whatever that is. But that's kind of my plan.
That's awesome. 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 Like I said, the more awareness we can bring to the program, the more awareness we can bring to, getting veterans and service members jobs, the better. Because the last thing you want, like I said, is, you getting out during, time I did or during COVID time, and there's just nothing for you. You get played a video and some, working on a resume and then out the door. Like that is not the right way to go. Things.
Oh man. Well, I love that I mean, because I'm sure that really impacts the work that you do now, that
Right.
you transition and that was your experience. And I'm sure that influences how you continue to serve that community and do really good stuff. So, I mean,
Right.
I'm sorry that you had that experience, but I'm glad that you turned it into something that's so much greater than that.
Right. I mean, along my steps in my different careers, I've seen different things in the veteran community, and that's why I chose to focus on emergency resources, because I know emergencies happen. You know, it's not a scheduled thing. It can be
Mm.
24/7. And when somebody's about to get evicted and they finally reach out, like, it's an emergency. You know, when you need to be able to feed your kids, or, your kids are going to get kicked out, or, something like that is happening. Like, you can't go and just say, well, let me schedule an appointment with somebody next week. We'll sit down, we'll do the paperwork. Like, no, you need assistance now, right? So I'm really glad that we're able to, focus on emergency assistance, because, like I said, in that instance, when you need the assistance and you call me, and then I can take care of that emergency, calm you down, you can take a breath, and then we can focus on long-term resources. That's what works. That's what works out.
I love that. So for you, because I was on your website today and I was kind of
Mhm.
playing around on what you do, and it's as simple as somebody calling that number, right?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, you can. I don't make any bones about it. I don't. I try not to brag about myself because I'm a very, very humble person. But I mean, you can check the reviews. You can ask anybody about Veterans 5 to 9. Although I work a full-time job, my phone is always on. I always pick up the phone when I can. I always answer emails when I can. But you give me a call. I'll talk to you. I'll fill out a little form and make sure you veteran verify everything and try to get you the assistance that you need.
I love that you make it so simple
Yeah.
too. Like that is awesome that it's just as simple as can be, because the last thing people need at that moment is something, the red tape, right?
Yeah.
Let's get
Cutting
through
the
the red
red
tape.
tape.
I love that. And I think it's so important. And I know that when in my work, um, of course, we hope never to see somebody in dire straits or that moment of crisis. But it is so great to know that there are organizations available just in case, where like push comes to shove, we're in a moment of crisis, who are you going to call, right? It's
Right.
it's so important to know who those people are.
Absolutely. And you know what? I tell people, thanks to, the donors, to the people who, provide us grants, because I always say, hey, Veterans 5 to 9 might not be around forever, because again, there's a lot of nonprofits, everybody's fighting for the same dollars. But I said all the time, if I help, one veteran or service member and it made their day and it got them off the streets and it stopped them from committing suicide or whatever it was, then hey, it was worth it for me. I went out and did everything I could, you know.
Awesome. Awesome.
So that's where we're at. I definitely do appreciate your time, the effort, things that you're doing for the service members out there at Fort Huachuca.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you having me, Marcus, and seeing the value of the program and how we all are really working towards the same goal, right? To support these individuals. So I appreciate you bringing me on, and thank you for all that you're doing too.
Absolutely. If you ever need me to come out there, explain, provide our resources as far as what we do, just in case any of your, members out there need it, I'd be happy to share our information with you. And please tell them, don't hesitate to give me a call if they need some assistance.
I appreciate that. Thanks a bunch.
Absolutely, guys. There you have it. Theresa Simmons for the P30 program, private public partnership. I will put their link in the comments so you guys can get to it. Holler at her, give her a call if you need some assistance with getting a job. Again, you can tell she's truly in it for the right reasons, and that's the kind of people that we need out there. So there you have it for this edition of Cutting the Red Tape. Please do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Thank you.